Children, today we'll start the story, The Third Level. It is written by Jack Finney. Actually, in this story, Jack presents a curious experience. A psychologist may interpret the third level as a medium of escape for a person. Now, if I talk about the summary, third level summary. Children, it is a story about a 31-year-old man named Charlie. And beside this is a psychological story that refers to the subway at the Grand Central Railway Station. Which actually Grand Central Railway Station, it takes the passengers to Galesburg. In addition, this subway becomes the interconnection between the narrator's harsh reality and fantasy. Moreover, the third level was a way of escape for Charlie. As life in the modern world is full of uncertainties, worries, and stress, it takes Charlie to a different world that his friend also calls a walking dream with fulfillment. Further, the story is about Charlie's tendency to escape from the world. Most importantly, the third level starts because of Sam's letter written on 18 July 1984. So, this story shows the connection between time and space. Now, the president of the New York Central and the New York, New Haven and Hartford Railroad will swear on a stack of timetables. Now, stack means pile. In New York, the Grand Central Station has two levels. Now, the narration begins in a mock serious manner. The presidents of the New York Central and the New York, New Haven, and the Hartford Railroads will swear on a pile of timetables that there are only two levels at Grand Central Station. Children, there are only two levels at Grand Central Station. But who is I? I is Charlie, the narrator. But Charlie, the narrator, asserts that there are three. He has been on the third level. He says that there are three. They say there are two levels, but he says that there are three levels. And he has been on the third level. He talked to a psychiatrist friend. What was the name of his psychiatrist friend? Sam Vanier. So he talked about that level to the psychiatrist friend Sam. He dismissed it as a waking dream fulfillment and said it was a waking dream wish fulfillment. So he dismissed it. He said the narrator was unhappy. He said, I was unhappy. That made my wife kind of mad. He says that the narrator wife, Lucia, was sad. The psychiatrist explained that the modern world was full of insecurity, fear, war, worry. So, psychiatrists say that the world is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and all the rest of it. And that I just want to escape. Now, he says the narrator actually wanted to escape from all these things, he wanted to escape from the world. His friends also agreed. They thought that his habit of stamp collecting was a temporary refuge from reality. Now they say that the habit of collecting the stamp was a mere temporary escape from reality. Well, maybe, but my grandfather didn't need any refuge from reality. Things were pretty nice and peaceful in his day, from all I hear, and he started my collection. Now he says that if I am talking about my grandfather, so he believed in me. It's a nice collection too. Blocks of four of practicality ever US issue. Actually, he was 31 years old and he was an ordinary person. He had a habit and he had a hobby of collecting the stamps. So he had every kind of stamps of that era. Now, one night last summer, I worked late at the office. I was in a hurry to get uptown to my apartment, so I decided to take the subway from Grand Central because it's faster than the bus. So one night he wanted to get uptown to his home, to Lucia, his wife. So he turned into Grand Central Station from Vanderbilt Avenue. He went down the steps to the first level where one could take trains like the 20th century. Then he walked down another flight of stairs to the second level. Suburban trains left from there. He ducked into an arched doorway heading for the subway and got lost. He got lost over there, children. Now, what happened was next, the corridor Charlie was in began inclining at an angle and sloping downward. He thought that he was wrong, but he kept on walking. He kept on walking, children, and then what happened? He heard the empty sound of only his own footsteps. There was nobody else. He was listening to his own footsteps. There was no one around. Then the tunnel turned sharp left. He went down a short flight of stairs back on the second level. But the room he saw was smaller. But the room he saw was smaller, children. Now, what happened? When he was there, there were fewer ticket windows and train gates. There were fewer of it. So, now what happened was I thought I was back on the second level, but I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. Now, the information booth in the center was wooden and old looking, and the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. He was wearing it. The person who was sitting over there, he was wearing such sort. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Children, what do you mean by flickering? If I talk about flickering, the now actually he went over there and he saw the those you will find out the write down the meaning. Okay, if I talk about this paragraph, actually he is in a fantasy sort. Now what happened was, children, the person he was sitting over there, he was wearing yes, green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. Now, the lights were dim and sort of flickering. That means glimmering, timtimana. And at that time, the light was flickering. Then I saw why they were open flame gas lights. There were brass spitons on the floor, children. What do you mean by spitons? Spitons, the brass spitons. There were a brass spitons on the floor, and across the station, a glint of light caught my eye. Now, children, spitons means containers used for spitting. Containers used for spitting. And across the station, a glint of light. Glint means quick flash of light. So what happened was there were brass pitons on the floor and there was glint of light across the station. A man pulled a gold watch from his waist pocket and the man snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch and frowned. He wore a leg of mutton. We can say that he wore a derby hat. Now he says, what was he wearing? He was giving, now he's describing that man. He wore a derby hat, a black 4-button suit with tiny lapels. What do you mean by children? Lapels. Lapels actually means front part of a coat. So he was wearing all these, and then he says that, and he had a big black handbear mustache. Now, that particular person he's describing, that he had a big black handlebar mustache. Then Charlie looked around. He saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 only. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high buttoned shoes. He also saw a very small courier and eaves locomotive with a funnel shaped stack. Children, what is a locomotive? Locomotive is a railway engine. Stack means chimney. So the engine was also of 18th-19th century. Like in the past 1890s, it was there. So people were dressed up also of that sort. He found the people were dressed up of 1890, and the engine, it was also like of 1890s with a funnel and a chimney. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. So, what happened was he wanted to confirm, and he went to that particular boy and he was having a pile of papers. It was, and what was the pile of papers? He wanted to confirm that whether he is in 1890s era only. So he went over there just to confirm his doubt. He went to that particular child and he took up the papers. It was the world. The world hasn't been published for years. Now, the paper was like today, in today's era, we can say Times World, the Times of India, the Hindustan Times, we can say. There are a lot of papers over here, but that time the paper which was published, it was the world. And it's been years that the paper was not published. So Charlie knew that he was back in 1890s. He walked over to that boy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. The lead story in the world said something about President Cleveland. And what was mentioned over there was the lead story of the President Cleveland. He knew that the world has not been published for years. From the files of the public library, he came to know the date of that issue was June 11, 1894. I turned toward the ticket windows, knowing that there on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Lucia and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go. So, what happened was, just to confirm, what did he do? Children, he went to that particular ticket window. He turned towards the ticket window and he wanted two tickets of Galesburg, Illinois. One was to be for himself and the other for his wife Lucia. Then, have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town, still trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat on their lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around in a peaceful world. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off and the World War II over 40 years in the future, I wanted two tickets for that. Now, the clerk actually he wanted to visit where he wanted to go, children. He wanted two tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. And he described the the uh, town over there, that they had a huge lawns and there were old frame houses. The tremendous, children, tremendous means impressive. So he says that everything was very impressive over there, whose branches meet overhead. Overhead means in the sky above the head. And in 1894, summer evening was twice as long. Now he was describing the point of time at that time. Fireflies all around. Fireflies means jugnu. So they were all around over there. And it was at a distance of 20 years. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off. So there were the difference of 20 years. And the World War II over 40 years in the future, I wanted two tickets for that. He wanted to see that particular place. He wanted to be there at that place where the place was actually very peaceful, where fireflies move and the wind blows. So today it is we will do only this much, and tomorrow I'll explain you the next half.